Most people never fail because of lack of talent. They fail because they surrender before destiny has even begun to test them. They stop climbing the mountain not at the peak, not even halfway, but at the very first sign of resistance. And that, my friend, is the great tragedy of human potential. People quit long before life has revealed its treasures. Success does not come dressed in silk and gold. It comes disguised as sweat, rejection, sleepless nights, and self-doubt. It arrives wearing the mask of obstacles, testing whether you are truly worthy of it. And most people, they look at the mask, they see the hardship, and they walk away. They think, this is not for me. This is too much. This is impossible. And in that single moment of surrender, they bury their own greatness. Think about Thomas Edison. Do you know why his name is written into history books, while millions of other inventors are forgotten? Not because he was the smartest, not because he had the most resources, but because when the world laughed at his thousands of failed experiments, he didn't quit. He looked at each failure and said, I have not failed. I have simply found one more way that doesn't work. That mindset was his gold. That belief was his real invention. The light bulb was only the proof. Why do most people fail at success? Because they do not understand that success is not a single event. It is a long march through storms, deserts, and nights where no one believes in you, not even yourself. Andrew Carnegie, one of the richest men of his era, once said that 90% of people fail because they give up just inches from the gold mine. They dig and dig, and when the soil turns hard, they stop, not realizing that with one more strike, they could have uncovered the fortune of a lifetime. The truth is, success demands something that frightens the average mind: discipline. Discipline is the bridge between desire and destiny. Everyone desires, but only a few are willing to build the bridge. They want the reward without the repetition, the victory without the sacrifice. They dream of a crown, but they refuse to bleed for it. That's why you see gyms full in January and empty by March. That's why so many business ideas die in notebooks before they ever reach the marketplace. That's why books are left unwritten, songs unsung, and visions abandoned. Because most people cannot endure the silence of the process. They cannot withstand the loneliness of discipline. But here's the paradox. Those who endure, those who choose the hard road, eventually discover that the process itself is the prize. The late nights, the small improvements, the battle with the self. This is where strength is forged. This is where resilience is carved into the soul. Henry Ford was laughed at, ridiculed, and called a fool for thinking he could mass-produce cars. Even his own engineers said, it can't be done. But Ford refused to bow to the chorus of doubt. He told them, whether you think you can, or you think you can't, you're right. That one sentence is the law of success. Most people fail because their thinking is weak. They see barriers, not opportunities. They see setbacks, not lessons. They see the mountain, not the view from the top. The battlefield of success is not in the marketplace, not in the office, not in the bank account. It is fought first in the mind. Conquer the mind, and the world cannot defeat you. But here's where most people stumble. They underestimate the power of belief. Belief is invisible, yet it builds empires. Belief is intangible, yet it fuels revolutions. Walt Disney was fired from a newspaper job because his editor thought he lacked imagination. Imagine that. The man who went on to create an empire of dreams was once told he had none. What separated Disney from the millions who also faced rejection? He believed anyway. He believed so intensely, so stubbornly, that the world eventually bent to his vision. Success is not given to the one who waits. It is given to the one who dares. And daring means walking into uncertainty, with nothing but your faith as your compass. Most people fail because they refuse to walk when the path is dark. They want the guarantee before they begin, the applause before they perform, the harvest before they plant the seed. But life does not work that way. Life demands that you bet on yourself when no one else will. And that, right there, is the secret the masses never grasp. The willingness to begin without proof, to persist without applause, to trust the invisible, to fight the battle in silence, to walk alone if necessary, until the world can no longer deny the reality of your vision. Most people fail because they chase everything, And in chasing everything, they catch nothing. Their energy is scattered like broken glass, shining in 1,000 directions, but never cutting deep into any one thing. Success requires clarity. It demands focus so sharp it slices through distraction like a blade. Without it, the brightest minds burn out, the strongest wills weaken, and the greatest ideas vanish into the fog of inconsistency. Alexander the Great was not the most experienced warrior when he began his conquests. He was not the most educated philosopher, nor the wealthiest king. But he carried one weapon sharper than any sword: clarity of vision. He knew exactly what he wanted: to unite and rule. And with that clarity, he turned armies of ordinary men into legends. It was not chance. It was not luck. It was a vision so powerful that it infected the hearts of those who followed him. Why do most people fail at success? Because they drift. They allow the tides of opinion, fear, and doubt to pull them in circles. They start a journey without a map, and then complain when they get lost. Napoleon Hill warned the world of this danger when he wrote about drifters, people who move through life without purpose, easy prey for distraction, easy victims of failure. Without a definite aim, without a burning desire, success will always remain out of reach. But clarity alone is not enough. Purpose is the flame that keeps the vision alive when the nights grow cold. Without purpose, discipline becomes punishment. Without purpose, resilience becomes unbearable. Most people fail because they chase shallow goals: money without meaning, recognition without contribution, comfort without growth. And shallow goals cannot hold you when storms arrive. The moment resistance appears, they abandon the path because they were never deeply rooted in why they began. Look at Abraham Lincoln. He was defeated in elections again and again, ridiculed, mocked, dismissed as unfit for leadership. If his purpose had been shallow, he would have quit long before the presidency. But his vision was tied to something deeper: the preservation of a nation, the belief in freedom. Purpose gave him strength greater than humiliation, and that is why his name echoes through history, while thousands of his rivals are forgotten. Most people fail because they lack resilience, the sacred art of rising after being broken. They believe success is a straight road, but in reality, it is a battlefield where you will be knocked down again and again. The only question is, will you rise, or will you surrender? Consider the story of Colonel Sanders, the man behind Kentucky Fried Chicken. At age 65, broke and nearly hopeless, he took his fried chicken recipe and pitched it to restaurants. Do you know how many rejections he faced? Over 1,000. 1,000 doors slammed in his face. 1,000 people telling him no. Most men would have collapsed under the weight of that rejection. But Sanders refused. He believed his recipe had value. He believed when no one else did. And because of that, he turned failure into fortune. Not in his 20s, not in his 30s, but in the final chapters of his life. Resilience is not about never falling. It is about rising with more strength each time you do. The bamboo tree grows underground for 5 years, invisible, unseen, doubted by many who believe the seed is dead. But when it finally breaks through the soil, it can grow 80 feet in a single season. Success works the same way. The world may not see your effort, your nights of work, your silent sacrifices. They may think you are stagnant, failing, wasting time. But if you remain faithful, if you keep watering the vision, your breakthrough will come. And when it does, it will be unstoppable. Most people fail because they let the noise of the world drown out the whisper of their soul. They compare, they envy, they copy, until they lose the original power of their own uniqueness. But success does not come from imitation. It comes from authenticity. Dale Carnegie himself built his legacy not by copying other speakers, but by understanding people at a level so deep it felt like magic. He discovered a truth others overlooked: that success in life often comes down to how you make others feel, how you awaken trust, how you spark belief. And this is where many fail. They think success is a solo act, a mountain to be climbed alone. But success is never built in isolation. Even Edison had a team of relentless assistants. Even Ford had to inspire workers to believe in the assembly line. Even Disney required artists, engineers, and dreamers to build his vision. Most people fail because they try to hoard the journey instead of sharing it. Because they underestimate the power of human connection. Success is born from vision, but it grows through collaboration. And yet, most people sabotage themselves with ego, with pride, with the illusion that they can carry the world alone. They fail not because the dream was too big, but because they were too small to let others in. And so, the cycle repeats. Distraction, shallow goals, lack of discipline, fear of rejection, fragile resilience, isolation. These are the silent killers of greatness. These are the reasons why most people fail at success. But the rare few, the ones who rise above, they learn to master their mind, sharpen their vision, fuel their purpose, build resilience, and embrace connection. They learn to live by principles, not moods, by discipline, not desire, by vision, not circumstance. Most people fail because they resist change. They cling to the familiar even when the familiar is drowning them. Success is a river, always moving, always shifting, and yet the majority build their lives like stones on the bank, unmoving, rigid, afraid of the current. They say they want growth, but when growth demands transformation, they retreat. History remembers those who adapted. When the horse was replaced by the automobile, Henry Ford saw not death, but birth. When radios gave way to television, Walt Disney saw not the end, but the beginning of a greater story. When industries collapse, when times evolve, when the old ways crumble, success belongs to those who can bend without breaking, those who embrace change instead of fearing it. Most people fail at success because they want certainty. They demand guarantees before they leap. But the greatest victories are won by those who leap into uncertainty with faith burning in their chest. Life is not about waiting for the perfect moment. It is about creating the moment through courage, through movement, through action. And here is a truth too many ignore. Gratitude is the fuel that keeps the fire alive when progress feels slow. Without gratitude, ambition turns bitter. Without gratitude, discipline feels like chains. Without gratitude, success, even when achieved, tastes like dust. Most people fail not because they never reach their goals, but because when they do, they feel empty. They forgot to be thankful along the way. Gratitude transforms the struggle into meaning. It turns obstacles into lessons, setbacks into blessings. It teaches you to love the journey, not just the destination. And when you love the journey, you cannot fail, because every step is already a form of success. Look at the life of Helen Keller. Blind, deaf, voiceless to the outside world. Yet she became a symbol of courage and brilliance. How? Gratitude. She once said, "I cried because I had no shoes until I met a man who had no feet." Gratitude gave her strength to rise where others would have broken. Gratitude gave her vision beyond sight. Most people fail because they do not master themselves. They think the enemy is out there, in the economy, in competition, in circumstance. But the true enemy has always been within. Doubt, fear, laziness, pride. Conquer yourself, and no force on earth can conquer you. Ignore yourself, and you will fall even with the world on your side. Marcus Aurelius, the great Stoic emperor, ruled with armies and power, yet he wrote in his private reflections, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." That was his weapon. That is the same weapon you must forge. Most people fail at success because they live as prisoners of comfort. They worship security, routine, the illusion of safety. But nothing grows in safety. The seed must break its shell to become a tree. The bird must leave its nest to learn to fly. You too must be willing to leave the comfort of the familiar, or else your dreams will rot in the soil of hesitation. So why do most people fail at success? Because they forget the simplest truth of all. Success is not an outcome. It is a way of being. It is the daily choice to rise instead of retreat, to believe instead of doubt, to act instead of delay. Success is not something you chase. It is something you embody until the world has no choice but to recognize it. And this is where I leave you with a challenge. Look at your life. Not tomorrow, not someday, but now. Where have you surrendered? Where have you allowed fear to silence you? Where have you let the excuses of the world bury the fire within you? Because the difference between those who fail and those who rise is not talent, not luck, not destiny. It is decision. Decide to win the morning, and you win the day. Decide to master your mind, and you master your life. Decide to persist when others quit, and the universe will bend in your favor. Decide to believe in yourself with such intensity that no rejection, no failure, no storm can shake you. The great men and women of history were not gods. They were human, flesh, blood, doubt, fear. But they chose. They chose again and again, until choice became destiny. And so must you. Stand now in the battlefield of your life and choose. Choose resilience. Choose vision. Choose discipline. Choose gratitude. Choose to walk when the path is dark. Choose to persist when the world says quit. Choose to rise after every fall. To see in every failure a new lesson. To carve from every setback a sharper blade. Because success is not for the chosen few. It is for the few who choose. Most people fail at success. But you are not most people.